before sitting down, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer unto God?
Yes, sir.
Be seated there, and the state may examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Marvelous.
Can you please state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Chris Newcomb, or Christopher Newcomb is my full name.
Okay.
N-E-W-C-O-M-B.
Okay. And I am going to ask you, sometimes we have this problem, sometimes we don't, but you're more a fast talker than a quiet one,
Yeah.
necessarily. This microphone amplifies your voice.
Yeah.
So just periodically, I may ask you to make sure you're close to it, okay? Okay. Mr. Newcomb, how old are you?
32.
And can you tell us where you live?
South Webster.
Okay. And who do you live with in South Webster?
My wife, my 2 kids, and at the moment, my mother and grandma.
Okay. You said wife. Are you actually married?
No.
Okay. But you consider her your wife?
Might as well be. We've been together darn near 10 years. Sorry, sir.
Okay. You've been together almost 10 years.
Yep.
Correct? Okay. And you said your 2 children?
Yep.
How old are your children?
6 and 4.
Okay. Boys, girls?
1 boy, 1 girl. We did it right the first 2 times.
Okay. And can you tell us, Mr. Newcomb, do you work currently?
Yes. Well, not currently. No, I got laid off the 3rd.
Okay. And where are you working?
Gavin Power Plant up there in Gallipolis, or Cheshire.
Okay. And you said you got laid off. Do you, in that situation, do you have like a return date or?
Yeah, December 15th.
Okay.
I get laid off for the shutdown. Whenever they shut one unit down, we get caught up on that ash pretty quick.
Okay. All right. And you indicated that right now your mother and grandmother live with you as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who are they? What are their names?
Rita Newcomb and Norma Beasler.
Okay. And Rita Newcomb is your mother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you tell us the name of your wife, not wife?
My wife, not wife?
Yes.
Randa Hughes.
Okay. And can you tell us how long have you lived in the home that you are currently staying in?
3 years, 2 years, 3 years, give or take.
Okay. And specifically, is the home that you are currently residing in the same home that Angela and Jake and George lived in up until the point that they were charged in this, in these offenses?
Yeah.
These offenses. Okay. And prior to moving into that location, where did you live?
Next door.
Okay. And who did you live next door with at that time?
Same people.
Okay. Your Randa and your mother and grandmother and your 2 children.
There was a year I lived over in Oak Hill for a little while.
Okay.
On Dickens Road.
Okay. And what's up there? What's on Oak Hill?
Ain't nothing there anymore. Used to be a farm, but that
Okay.
was my farm at the time, but
Okay.
ended up selling it.
You ended up selling it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me, do you know a person by the name of Angela Wagner?
Yep.
And how do you know that person?
She's my half-sister.
Okay. Same mother, same father?
Same mother.
Okay. So Rita Newcomb is also her mother?
Yep.
Okay. And can you tell us what the age difference is between you and your sister?
20 years.
Okay.
Pretty good age difference.
What'd you say?
Pretty good age difference.
Yes. So she is the older of the 2 of you.
Well, yeah, I don't look that old, do I?
Okay. So, all right. And can you tell us, like when you were growing up, was she still living in the same home as you? Or did she live in the same home as you?
No.
Okay. And where was she at that time?
Like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
Bethel Hill Road, I think's the name of it, over in Lucasville.
Okay. And who did she live on Bethel Hill Road with?
Billy, George, Jake, and that's it.
Okay,
About 50 dogs.
okay. And did she raise dogs
Yeah.
and sell dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excuse me. And so you know who Billy Wagner is and who Jake and George Wagner are as well, correct? And can you tell us how old you are compared to Jake and George Wagner?
A year and a half older than George. I think 2.5 years older than Jake.
Okay,
Pretty sure. Give or take a few months,
okay. Technically, you're their uncle, correct?
technically.
But you're closer in age to them than what most uncles would be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And can you tell us, when you were growing up, would you spend time with Jake and George from time to time?
Yep.
Okay. And can you just tell us, was that while they were living on Bethel Hill Road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And can you tell us what kinds of things you would do with Jake and George?
Hunting, fishing, camping, a lot of four-wheeling, mudding. Worked on a lot of vehicles, four-wheelers, pretty much just whatever we could do to pass time.
Okay.
If we wasn't hunting, we was getting ready for hunting season most of the time.
Okay. And tell us about that. What kinds of things would you do to prepare for the hunting season?
Set in food plots, set up tree stands, cameras, make shooting lanes. That's pretty much it.
How do you make a shooting lane?
Get up in a tree stand and any place that's gonna block your view of a shot, of a clear shot, just take a saw or a pair of snips and cut it down.
Okay.
A lot of times we'd climb the tree to do it.
Okay. And would that be still up on the Bethel Hill? Is that where you would do your hunting and stuff, or where would you do your hunting?
Yeah, we did quite a bit of hunting out there.
Okay. Did you consider yourself close to Jake and George during that time period?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And can you tell us, what the family dynamics were from your observations, as far as Jake, George, Billy, and Angela, when they were living together at that time?
What do you mean?
Were they close? Were they not close?
Yeah, they was close.
Okay. Other than you, did they have many friends?
A handful that I knew of.
Okay. And can you tell us, did you become aware that they moved to Peterson Road eventually?
But I become aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know when they moved?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
You mean like, did I know that they moved, or did I find out later that they had already moved?
You tell me.
Yeah, I knew that they moved,
Okay.
I think.
And
We'll go with that.
can you tell us, sorry, I'm not really wording these correctly or well. Did you go out to Peterson Road with the same amount of frequency that you had been out to Bethel Hill?
No,
Okay, tell me about that.
I went to Bethel Hill a lot because when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time over there. Peterson Road down there at Peoples, I went down there, I helped them build a barn, helped them build a fence, bought a lot of scrap iron off of them. I don't think I ever did any hunting down there, though. I don't believe I did.
Okay.
If I did, it must not have been very good because I can't remember it.
Okay. So a lot less time spent at Peterson Road than you did at Bethel Hill.
Yeah.
And had you also started a family as well?
Oh, yeah.
When was your oldest child born?
7/1/16.
And when your wife,
Not
when Randa was pregnant with your child, where did you guys live at that time?
In Oak Hill for a year,
Okay.
and then after the baby was born, she wanted to stay with her mom and dad for a while, so we went up there and stayed for a little bit.
Okay.
That way, in the first kid, she wanted to have help and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I was lost. I did not know what to do, how to do it, or anything else.
Okay, and so then, after you left her, was it both her parents? Did her parents live together? Was it, okay, and where did they live?
Can't remember the exact address, but they live in Chillicothe.
Okay,
I think it's, I want to say it's Trigo Creek Road. Or if it ain't Trigo, it's something else.
and when you left Chillicothe after having stayed with them for a while after your first child, son, right?
Yep.
Was born, where did you go to then?
South Webster.
Okay. And so we're clear, when did Jake, Angela, and George move into that house that was right next door to your mom and grandmother's home?
Right after they came back from Alaska. I can't remember the exact day.
Okay. Do you remember when they were in Alaska?
I don't remember the date, no, but I remember being there.
Okay, all right. And how long were they there for?
Oh, shoot. Year, maybe?
Okay. But prior to going to Alaska, they were at Peterson Road, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But when they came back from Alaska, then they moved into that residence that was right next door to your mom, or, yeah, to your mom and grandmother's home.
Yeah, that was my sister's dad's house at the time. Well, he passed away by then.
Okay. And he passed away actually while they were in Alaska,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. And do you know if she came back for his funeral?
No.
Okay. You do not know, or she did not come back?
I know she didn't come back because I was there.
Okay.
I was at the funeral.
Okay. But when they came back, they moved into the home that had belonged to her father?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can you tell us the kind of dynamics between your sister Angela and her two sons, Jake and George? How would you describe that relationship?
On her part, controlling is all get out.
Okay. Tell me about that. What do you mean by controlling as all get out?
She tell them to jump, they jump. I think that's the politest way I can put that. I think.
And can you tell us what her relationship was like with Billy?
Yeah, give me a minute. Dysfunctional? Sound about right? Give or
Okay.
take, somewhere in there?
And why do you say that?
Well, if you know Billy, you pretty much know why he was dysfunctional.
Okay. And so go ahead and tell me about that. Tell me about your observations or your experience with Billy Wagner.
He's about as useless as tits on a borehole.
Okay.
I'm sorry, am I allowed to say that? Yes, I'm sorry.
And why do you say that specifically?
Lazy, didn't want to do nothing, always running his mouth, always scheming on some way or another.
Okay.
Grinded his teeth beyond recognition. That's enough to drive anybody crazy.
Okay. And was there a period of time that you were aware that he was staying with his parents at the Flying W instead of residing with Angela and the boys?
I kind of figured that. I didn't know for sure, but I kind of figured it.
Okay.
Because whenever I was down there, he was never there.
Okay. And down there, are you talking about Peterson Road?
Yeah.
Okay. And then even when they came back from Alaska and Jake and George and Angela were living next door to you on...
Yeah, I only seen him a few times. He'd just come in every now and then.
Okay. And who else besides Jake, George, and Angela were residing at that home down in South Webster, next door to you?
That's pretty much, oh, Sophie and Bullvine, they was there.
Okay.
Other than that, that was about it.
Okay. Did you ever know a person by the name of Beth Ann?
Oh, yeah, she was there.
Okay.
I forgot about her.
Okay. And who is Beth Ann?
Jake, I think it was his wife. I think they got married.
Okay. Do you know where they got married?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay. You weren't present for it.
Nope, I wasn't present for that.
Okay. All right. Were you aware of Jake and Angela and George having what I refer to as family meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. Like, how did you know that they had family meetings, I guess?
Says to say we gotta have a family meeting, and they go talk, and I go somewhere else.
Okay. Can you tell us, regarding Jake and George, was George protective of Jake?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
And as his little brother, he was always told to protect him, take care of him against anything, even me on occasion. And he'd protect him.
Okay. He took that seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us regarding Sophia and Bullvine, did Angela appear to have more of a mother relationship with them or a grandparent relationship with them?
I think she tried to be more of a mother than what she should have been, in my opinion.
Okay. You indicated, I don't remember your exact phrase, I think controlling as all get out is what you said about your sister. Did she also try to exact control over you?
Well, she tried to several times.
Okay. And specifically, would she try to exert control over you regarding your children or how you were?
She did a few times till I told her certain things. I got you. I ain't gonna, yeah, I ain't gonna say exactly what I said to her, but.
Just respond to the question.
Okay, so, she attempted to, but she was not successful in that regard,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. Can you tell us, did you also do a lot of scrapping or trading, buying, selling?
That's what I've done all my life up till here recently, and I still do it, even though I got a actual job, but I still do it.
Okay, so you actually made a living doing that,
Oh, yeah.
correct? Okay, and you said basically from the time you were pretty young?
Yeah.
Okay,
My grandpa was a horse trader, my dad was a horse trader, it's kind of the only thing I knew for the longest time.
okay. And so you'd trade,
Horses, goats, cattle, guns, cars. I'd buy a box of flies, I think, and make $1.
okay. And can you tell us, did you ever help either George or Jake find things that they were looking for when you were out there doing trading, buying, selling?
Yeah.
Okay. And specifically, did you ever help them find certain kinds of guns?
Yeah, if they was looking for a particular kind, and I could find it. I mean, some of them was too hard for me to locate, but some of them I could.
Okay, all right. And specifically, did you ever help George locate a .40 caliber Glock?
Yes.
Tell me about that, what you recall from that.
He asked me to try to find him a .40 caliber Glock. He said it'd probably be a hard one to find. I ended up finding one. The guy had it in, I'm wanting to say he lived in Hillsboro, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Through Facebook Marketplace. I messaged him. Then I messaged George, told him what it was. He said, "We'll try to get it if you can." He said, "If not, don't worry about it." And I tried to get it, and I ended up getting it, and we ended up meeting in that truck stop right down there by Peoples.
Okay.
And, yeah, that's where
And
we
who
met
was
at.
with you when you're meeting the person that was selling it?
Yeah,
And who was with you when you,
me, Randa, and I think he drove separately.
okay. He being George?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a recollection as to when that might have been in relation to the homicides?
Long time ago.
Okay.
It was,
So we're 2022 right now.
yeah, so
Um,
a year or two, give or take, before
Okay.
the homicides.
Okay.
Somewhere in that time frame, somewhere.
Okay. And do you have any recollection of any other type of guns that you secured for George?
That he was actually requesting me to look for.
Sure.
I think I got him another Glock, I think. Maybe not, but, that he asked for? No, because he asked for some hard to find things. Some very rare, hard to find expensive things.
Okay. And were you able to successfully locate those items or not?
Not all of them, no.
Okay. Did you ever find him a Taurus 357?
Did I ever find him a Taurus?
Yeah, or did you ever?
Basis is,
Very least leading.
yeah,
Okay,
it is leading.
okay. Can you tell me, do you recall any other types of weapons that you found for George Wagner?
I know I found quite a few things that I traded for out in the country that he ended up buying off of me. But
Okay.
it wasn't any that he was exactly requesting me to
Okay.
look for.
Yeah, so, yeah, ignore that, I'm not talking about weapons that he necessarily requested, but
Oh.
just that he ultimately bought.
Oh,
off of you.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us what some of those are?
Objection.
Basis,
Please, Berkshire.
yes.
Ask you leading questions now. Did you ever obtain a Taurus, a 357?
Over,
For George?
So, but,
Sorry, I know, there's lots of things going on here.
did I ever obtain one for him?
Or did he ever buy one off of you?
No, I bought one off him.
Okay. A Taurus 357?
Yes.
Okay. And what about Remington 30-06?
I sold that for him.
Okay. Do you remember when you sold that for him?
A good year or two before I found him the Glock.
Okay. And did you also know him to own Wingmaster?
Oh, yeah, he's had several of them.
Okay. Did you also do the same thing for Jake? I mean, would Jake buy or ask you to sell guns?
Jake
for you?
never asked for much, really.
Okay.
Anytime that, if I was selling anything, most of the time it was George bringing them to me to sell. I don't know whose they was. They might not have been his, they might have been Jake's, it might have been Billy's, might have been somebody's, but he's the one that always, I picked them up off of.
Okay.
And Jake, he never really asked for anything, want me to find him anything.
Okay. Were you ever present or aware of George buying guns for his father?
Over.
And,
You can answer it, that's what that means.
that I know of, he might have. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
Okay.
he might have, maybe,
Okay.
possibly.
Tell me what your observations were that make you believe that.
He might have bought a 12-gauge coach gun for him, but I don't know if that was for himself or if that was for his dad, for a present. But that's been years and years and years and years ago.
Okay. And what made you think that that particular gun might have been a gift for his father? Like, why do you pick that one out?
Just looked like something Billy would like.
Okay. You're not aware whether or not he actually gave it to him, is what you're saying?
No.
Over.
No, not aware.
Okay. Did you know Tabby?
Yes.
How did you know Tabby?
When we was kids, they used to hang out a lot. I guess her and George were dating back in, and then they broke up. I didn't see her for a long time. And then they got back together, and I hung out with them whenever I was over there, you know.
Okay. And when they were first together, you said they were little kids?
Oh, yeah, we was kids back in.
Okay. And did you ever become aware of any of the facts or circumstances regarding their breakup, or was that something that you did not?
I didn't bother asking, didn't really care.
Okay. Did you know Hannah Rhoden?
Yes.
How did you know her?
She was like a little sister to me.
Okay. And describe the nature of your relationship, or what?
Real good friends.
Okay. And tell me about that.
She ain't somebody that I seen every day, but she's somebody I texted almost every day. We talked for a long time, just almost every day, back and forth for a good while. And then her and Jake ended up breaking up, and my wife ended up getting pregnant. We kind of did our own things there for a while, so we kind of lost touch for a little bit, but
Okay.
I always thought the world of her.
Okay. And did you observe her relationship with Sophia?
She was a great mother. From what I observed, she was an exceptional mother.
Did you know any of the other Rhodens?
I knew Frankie pretty good,
Okay,
and I knew little Chris back when he was like real little.
okay. And where would you see little Chris when he was real little?
When I first met him at Sis's house, George and Jake's house, Angela's house,
Okay,
Billy's house.
on Bethel Hill?
Yes.
Okay. And again, was that when you were younger?
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe Frankie?
Hell of a good old boy. Heck of a good old boy. Sorry.
And can you tell us if you were to see him out and about, would you guys be friendly with one another?
Oh, yeah.
Do you recall the last time that you would have saw him?
Ross County Trade Days, I was up there selling some horses, and he stopped by, and that's the first time I'd seen him in a long time, and I told him, I said, boy, you're eating at the first table, ain't you? He shot up about 3 or 4 inches and put on some weight from the last time I seen him. And I think he had his woman with him, and I'm wanting to say he had a little boy with him. I can't remember the little boy's name,
Okay.
but the little boy wanted to buy a pony off of him, and Frankie said no.
Okay. And do you remember who the girl was that was with him?
I can't remember right off. I can't remember what her name was. I think it might have been his wife, the one he was married to.
Okay. Do you know it was Chelsea or was it Hannah Hazel?
I'm not sure which one it was.
Well,
Okay.
overruled objection.
And can you tell us when that would have been when you saw him at the Ross County Trade Days?
Whenever they first moved Trade Days up to Ross County, I think it was the second one that they had up there. So I can't remember exactly when that was, the date, but I think it was about the second one they had.
Okay. And can you tell us in relation to the homicides when that might have been?
Oof. 3, 4 years
Okay.
prior to that.
And can you tell us, had you ever been up on Union Hill Road?
Maybe once, maybe. I ain't even 100% sure about that because that'd been so long ago.
Okay. Can you tell us if you are familiar with the show Walking Dead?
Yes,
And can you just briefly tell us what that's about? Or
a
what-
lot of zombies.
Okay. And can you tell us if you are aware whether or not Jake Wagner is a fan?
Yep.
Okay. And can you tell us if you know what the favorite movie of Jake and George Wagner are?
Last I knew, it was Boondock Saints,
Okay. And how do you know that? Or what makes you say that?
because we was all shooting the shit one day. Sorry, Your Honor. We was all talking one day about what our favorite movies and stuff was, and I told them what mine was, and they said what theirs was. I said, well, that's a good movie too.
Okay.
Was
And what was your favorite movie?
anything with John Wayne, and I'm a big John Wayne fan.
Okay. And it was both Jake and George who said that their favorite movie was Boondock Saints.
Pretty sure.
Okay. And can you tell us generally what the theme of that movie is?
Two brothers and their idiot friend kill a bunch of mafia guys and hitmen, and anybody had anything to do with the mafia.
Okay. And in one of the series, does the father also join them?
And that's Boondock Saints 2, yeah.
Can you tell us, was there a time that you saw both Jake and George with their hair dyed dark?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me how you remember that?
They just showed up at the house one day, and I told them it looked stupid or dumb.
That's not the actual word you used, is
Nope.
it? Okay. And was there any comment made by either one of them explaining why they had dyed their hair?
Jake was laughing, said, don't you think I look like Daryl? And I told him, nope, not even close.
And who is Daryl?
Character off The Walking Dead.
Okay. And that character is played by Norman Reedus, correct?
Yes.
And he also plays one of the brothers in Boondock Saints, correct?
Yes.
And can you remember when that was in relation to the homicides?
When what was?
When you saw them with their hair dyed?
I'm not very good with dates. I can't remember if it was right before or right after, somewhere around in there.
Okay. Can you tell us, do you play a lot of cards or poker
Yeah.
specifically? Is it just poker that you play, or do you play other games?
If it's pretty much anything gambling, I like to gamble. Yeah.
Okay.
But mostly cards, mostly.
Okay. And tell us about that. Like, who do you play with? How are those arranged? Do you still do that?
Yeah, I play with just a bunch of my friends from down home. Normally, we don't play that much through the summer because there's a lot more stuff to be doing. Most time we play a lot through the winter because, you know, winter it's cold. You ain't got nothing really to do. Don't feel like getting out and doing anything. So about 2 or 3 days out of the week, we'll go have like a poker night or a game night.
Okay.
And that's pretty much about it. Depending on where we go, whoever's house we go to, they got to supply the food and drinks.
Okay.
So there's a little rule.
And then there's, you play for money. You bet money on that.
Well, yeah, I don't play for fun.
Okay. And do you have some success at that?
It kept me fed last winter.
Okay. And can you tell us, did you ever observe George to be much of a poker player or gambler?
He never gambled with me, any.
And can you tell us, first of all, do you know the son of Mr. Nash, the attorney that represents George?
Yeah.
And how do you know him?
I met him, I think I met him through Garrett, I think.
Okay. And Garrett is who?
Garrett's a buddy of mine. I've known him since Dave was born.
Okay.
Because I've known his dad. His dad's known me all my life.
Okay. And in fact, he's one of the people that you play cards with, is that
Mhm.
correct? Okay.
Well, every now and then, I think we played once or twice with him. He didn't play no more after that.
Okay. Did he lose money?
He lost a little bit.
Okay.
Garrett lost a lot more, though.
Can you tell us, were you aware of various properties belonging to the Wagners that burned down?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us which properties you have a recollection of?
Houses, trucks, I think some hayfields,
Some hayfields?
yeah, and a dog kennel.
Okay. And where were the houses that burnt down located?
Bethel.
Okay. And do you recall how many houses burnt down there?
3, I'm thinking.
Okay. Had you helped them build one of those homes?
Yeah, helped out here and there.
Okay. And how many trucks that you were aware of?
I think one pickup, and I think a semi. I think.
Okay. And same question for the hayfields. Was that at Bethel Hill or some other place?
I don't really recall the hayfields as clear.
Okay.
You know, that was more, I was really little whenever that kind of stuff happened.
Okay. And can you tell us, did you ever discuss these with any one of the Wagner members of the family?
No?
Okay. Did they ever tell you that, whether those were truly accidental or whether they had been purposely set?
No.
Okay. Did you have any observations that made you suspicious?
Few little things here and there.
Okay, and tell me about that.
My sister had a lot of the same stuff in the house. Caught myself.
So when you say same stuff, what do you mean by that?
A statue was here, and fire happened, yet new house statue here again.
Okay. So some items seem to survive the fires?
Yep.
Okay. After the homicides occurred, were you involved in a wreck in George's truck?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It was a bad deal. I almost died.
Okay. Who was driving the truck at that time?
Jake.
Okay. And do you recall where you were going?
I think I was going home. I don't know, there's bits and pieces from that wreck I don't remember.
Okay. So, but Jake was driving George's truck and you were the only other person in it at the time?
I remember my truck broke down,
Okay.
and that's the reason I called George, because my truck broke down in Jackson. And he came up there to, I can't remember if he didn't pick up the truck, I don't think. I think he found out what was wrong with it, and he said he could fix it. And I think I got in the truck with him, and that's, I can remember that, doing that, but I don't remember how I wrecked. You know what I mean? I don't remember how that happened right there. I remember waking up, coming to here and there whenever they was trying to get me out of the truck. I remember that bits and pieces of it, but
But Jake was the one driving, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were the passenger, front seat passenger?
mm-hmm.
And was there anybody else in the truck at that time?
No.
Where was George at that time?
Honestly, don't know.
Okay.
I probably
And-
stayed, I think he stayed at the house because whenever he showed up there, he was driving Jake's truck.
Okay. And can you tell us, was that an intentional accident?
Not on my part, it wasn't.
Intentional. Okay. Tell me about that.
Like I said, I almost died. I wouldn't have done that intentionally for nothing.
Okay. And tell me, what kind of injuries did you sustain?
Multiple fractures going up the entire right side of my body. Oh shoot, what do they call when you bust your head? What's that?
Concussion?
Concussion. There you go. And a torn meniscus in my knee, my right knee.
Okay. And you
Not
said
to
when they were
mention
trying to
cuts and
get you out of the vehicle, tell me about that.
It took them about 4.5 hours to cut me out of the vehicle. They had to cut the back, the top off the truck, cut the back off my seat, and drag me out because I could sit there and I could count the injectors on the engine. The engine came through the truck and landed in my lap.
Okay.
They pulled me out of my boots. My boots were pinned up underneath of it.
Okay.
He got my boots out for me.
And were you then transported to a hospital?
Yeah, they life flighted me to, oh shoot, the one right there in Huntington, Cabell, I think it is, Cabell, Huntington.
Okay.
And I remember begging them not to do that. I told them just drive me, I'd make it, because I don't like flying. They wouldn't do it.
Okay. And can you tell us what you collided with? What did you, was it another vehicle? Was it a telephone pole? Was it a?
I don't know if he hit the deer or if he swerved to miss the deer, but we ended up hitting a tree and a bank and a creek,
Okay.
I think, or a tree, a creek, and a bank, something like that.
Okay. And this was after the homicides, but before they went to Alaska? Or were they living next door to you at that time, if you recall?
No, they wasn't living next door. They was still living in Peoples.
Okay.
I can't remember though if it was before or after. I can't remember when that was. But I do know they were still living in Peoples.
Okay. Regarding deer hunting, did you ever know Jake and George to poach deer?
Had my suspicions of it.
Okay, why?
They got a lot of nice deer heads.
Okay.
But as far as proof, I didn't know.
Okay. you never did that with them?
No.
One more question regarding the wreck of that truck.
Yeah.
Did they encourage you to sue George's insurance company?
Well, I'll sustain that, I'm not sure what,
Okay. Did somebody encourage you to sue the George's insurance company? His insurance?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Did you collect on insurance for that wreck?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you do that?
Got a lawyer and let him do it.
Okay. And do you know whose insurance paid you?
Objection.
Well, I'm going to overrule that objection, let him answer.
Geico, I think it was.
What'd you say?
Geico
Okay.
was the insurance that paid me.
Okay.
Or are you asking me like who?
Who was the policy owner of that insurance?
I think George. I think.
Okay. Regardless, it was George's truck, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a really nice truck. It wasn't after that wreck though. There wasn't nothing left of it.
What kind of truck was it? Do you recall?
I think it was a 07 or an 08 Duramax. I can't remember it was one of them 2 years.
Are you familiar with the term Winter Olympics?
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you?
I thought it meant coyote hunting.
Okay. And when you say you thought it meant, who would use that term with you?
Jake, George, me.
Okay. Can you tell us, are Jake and George both mechanics?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say one is better than the other?
Yes, I would.
And who would that be?
He's the better mechanic by far. George is.
Okay.
By far.
Okay. And so if you want advice on fixing a vehicle, who do you go to?
George.
Okay. Did Billy ever talk to you about stealing diesel fuel?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
He told me the best way to not pay for any fuel.
Okay. And so did he tell you how he did it?
Yes.
And what was that?
He said he'd just pull up next to a truck and start pumping.
Okay. And how was he able to do that?
He had a pump that could switch either sucking or blowing, either way you looked at it.
Okay. Did you ever know Billy to use pills?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Or how did you know?
As you can tell, I'm kind of a heftier guy. So Billy'd have me go to some doctor across the bridge over there for, I call him a fat doctor. I don't know what they're called, but yeah.
Okay.
And I go in there and, you know, they tell me I'm fat and they give me 3 bottles of pills and he only took 1 bottle.
Okay.
I don't know what they was. It was a blue bottle, orange bottle, and a green bottle.
Okay. And would he provide money for you to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see George's tattoo that has the skull and the 8 ball in the skull's mouth?
Yeah.
Did you ever ask him about the meaning of that?
Nope, never did.
Okay. Were you interviewed by BCI in this case?
What? That's him, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You were interviewed by Special Agent Scheiderer?
Yes.
And did any other agents ever interview you, or was any other agents with him?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were interviewed a couple different times, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe one time when the Wagners were in Alaska, and then one time after they had returned, correct? Does that match your recollection?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Was there ever a time that Jake or George or Angela told you not to talk to BCI?
Yes.
And who told you that?
Angela, Jake, George.
You became aware that Jake pled guilty in this case, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Prior to that point, had you more or less defended them?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us how you felt at that time?
Enraged.
Okay. Tell me about that.
If I'd have had Jake in front of me at the time, I'd have probably beat him to an inch of his life.
Okay. Why?
Something like that should have never been done, ever. That is a monstrous act, in my opinion.
Do you have, well, I guess you already talked about how close the family was, Jake, George, Angela,
Yes.
to some extent Billy. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not? Oh,
Were you asking for an opinion?
yes, or a belief, yes, based on his observations of the family over all his life?
I'm not sure what you're asking an opinion about, but I don't think you could give an opinion. So I'll sustain the objection.
You indicated that you were enraged, and that if you'd had Jake in front of you, you probably would have,
Beat him to an inch of his life,
okay,
if not all the way, probably.
okay. Were you also enraged at anybody else?
Mostly Jake and my sister, majority of them.
Say it again,
Mostly Jake and my sister.
okay,
Never even gave two thoughts to Billy because I tried not to think about
okay,
him, period.
okay. Can you tell us, was your mother also charged in this situation?
Yes.
And can you tell us if, well, prior to that, had she ever been to jail before?
No.
Okay. And can you tell us how that made you feel that they basically involved her as well?
Still relevant now.
I'll sustain that objection.
Okay. your observations of Jake and George, I believe you already indicated that if Angela said jump, they said how high, correct?
Pretty much.
I'm sorry,
Objection.
basis is,
That's what he said. I was just laying that as a foundation to ask the next question.
you're objecting because of,
Leading question. Laying the foundation to ask this question.
I just asked him if that was his response earlier.
well, I guess I'll let you ask him if that's what he said earlier, if he remembers how he said it. I'll overrule the objection.
I forgot what I'm supposed to, do I answer?
Yeah, that happens. When I asked you about the relationship between Angela and Jake and George, and you were saying that she was controlling, and I said,
Yes.
what makes you say that? And what was your response to that?
She'd say jump, they jump.
Okay. You indicated that you felt enraged. Did you feel anything else?
Try to think of the word I'm looking for. Betrayed, could be a word.
Okay, and tell me about that.
Judge, is there relevance to how he felt?
I'm gonna overrule the objection if that's an objection, and let him answer the question.
Second answer? Just the fact that I would have believed 1,000 times my family had nothing whatsoever to do with this. And then it just made me look like the biggest idiot coming and going whenever Jake came out and confessed to it. And I just felt, I can't think of the right word. I want to say a certain word, but I can't think of what it is. Betrayed's about the closest thing I can think of.
Were there some things after you learned of the plea that you looked back on and looked at some of the things differently once you knew that they were in fact involved?
A few things.
Okay. Tell us something that you recall.
When I was being interviewed by the BCI agents, they brought up some things that I thought, well, it didn't make no sense, What was that got to do with anything? But after Jake confessed to it, then it started making a lot more sense.
Okay. And was there also something that you saw on Facebook that, looking back?
There was a profile picture on Facebook,
And what was that?
wolf missing an eye.
And why did that, when looking back, what significance did that have to you?
Just kind of ironic, I guess you could call it,
And why was it ironic?
because it was a wolf shot in the face.
And were you aware of one of the victims being shot in the eye?
Yes.
Okay. And whose profile was that?
George's.
I have no other questions at this time, Your Honor.
So we done?
Defense may cross-examine.
Do you want to take a break? We can probably a long process.
Well, it's 3 o'clock, so we will take a afternoon break, 15-minute break. You may be seated. The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Pretty good, how you doing?
Can I call you Chris?
Well, absolutely, I
All right,
prefer
we've
it.
met before, have we not?
Yes, we have,
I've been out to your home there in South Webster a few times,
several times.
along with Rick Nash, right?
Yep,
All right, thank you for coming in today.
ain't no problem.
We're just looking to have you answer some questions, so
All
if you don't
right.
understand something I say, please say so.
Well, you know that's gonna be probably about it. I ain't the brightest crayon in the box.
I don't know about that, you seem fine to me. Let me just ask you some questions about George. Now, George, I'm gonna ask you to stand up. Looking over at George there, he's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
How big was he the last time you saw him?
Oh, probably about my size, maybe a bit bigger.
Bit bigger.
He lost it, I found it.
He lost the weight and you picked it up.
Yep,
All right. And you and George, would it be fair to say you guys basically grew up like brothers?
pretty much.
All right. You were 18 months older than him, right?
Roundabouts, yeah, about a year and a half, give or take.
All right. And you know Jake as well, obviously.
Yep,
All right. Is George and Jake, are they the same?
no,
Explain that if you could.
night and day.
Night and day.
Yep.
Can you give me some more details how George is different than Jake?
Me and him, we vibed a lot better because we both liked about the same things.
Okay.
We had a lot of the same interests. Jake, not so much.
All right.
We was all like brothers, yes. He was like the brother that I always wanted. Jake was like the brother I wish I never had. You know
Keep
what I mean?
talking. Explain that a little bit.
He was very OCD about things.
Who's he? Jake?
Jake.
Okay, go
Jake,
ahead.
very picky to the point where if I had dirt on my boots, I'd have to take my boots off, put them in a bag, and set them in the bed of his truck.
All right. So he would not let you in his truck if you had some dirt on it.
Nope, I remember that plain as day.
All right. Would he have any other rules about his truck?
No smoking in the truck, which I don't blame him. Keep it clean, no trash.
Now, was George like that?
Lord no.
Explain what you mean.
Well, for instance, we could be out mudding somewhere, it's covered in mud head to toe. He'd say, "Jump on in.
All right.
We're gonna go get a pop."
All right. Was Jake the same way?
Nope.
And I think you said you went four-wheeling with George and Jake over on the Flying W. You know the Flying W.
Oh yeah.
You practically grew up there, right?
Yeah. I was
In
there
many
a lot.
ways.
I was there a lot.
You were there a lot, right?
Yeah.
Right. Would you and George go ripping and roaring on a four-wheeler?
Oh yeah.
What about Jake?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Would he kind of like poke you along behind you?
Pretty much.
Would you and George go right through the middle of a mud puddle?
Oh yeah.
And what about Jake?
He'd go around it.
Okay.
He decided to fly one time on his four-wheeler. He used me and George over as human ramps.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a dusty road and he didn't see us, I guess, parked waiting on him. And he hit us so hard he
Right up in the air.
right up in the air.
So George and Jake's fair to say they're brothers. They were completely different personality-wise.
Yes.
Is that right? And you and George were very tight.
Yes.
And if I told you that George thought of you more of his brother than he thought of Jake as a brother, would that surprise you?
No.
You and George like to go hunting a lot, right?
Yep.
Can you explain that just a little bit?
Put on camouflage, get up in the stand, sit there for 3-4 hours, sometimes all day. We'd do some all-day sits every now and then.
All right.
Sometimes we'd see stuff, sometimes we wouldn't.
Right, but you and George would hang out together in the woods.
Oh yeah.
All right. And over there on Bethel Hill, obviously, there's a lot of woods over
A
there.
lot of woods.
All right. And that's really good deer hunting area.
Yep.
Right. And George, since he was a little kid, he became obsessed with deer hunting.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Can you explain how he was obsessed with deer?
Ever since he was little, he wanted to have his own hunting show. I
Okay,
don't know if y'all are familiar with like Drury Outdoors.
okay.
Yeah, DTV. Well, George said he wanted to have that
All right.
himself.
And, go ahead.
I said, well, that'd be something nice, you know, something good to have. But, never did do it. Always
Never
wanted
did
to.
do it.
Never did do it. He could have done it. He was smart enough to do it with the,
Okay. Now,
So-
you know that Angela's your sister, half-sister.
no,
You don't like to admit that, right?
nope.
Let me just go there since we're here. You're embarrassed by what Angela and Jake did, aren't you?
That's
And-
one,
and
that's one
angry.
way you can put it, yes.
All right. And you talked about that a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
After Angela pled guilty, she called you, didn't she?
Yep.
Tell us about that.
About the call,
Yeah.
it was mostly me screaming and her screaming back, and that's pretty much the end of it. I hung up, blocked her number, can't call me no more.
Right. And you were harmed, you were shocked and harmed when Jake and Angela pled guilty,
Yes,
because they had fooled you.
yes. I had absolutely, I didn't believe for a second that my family had anything to do with this.
Right.
I said, there ain't no way. I thought I knew him, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was, like I said earlier, I was 100% enraged and felt betrayed. Embarrassed is another word.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Now, George, back with the deer hunting, tell us about what he would do when he, from a small age, from a young age, all the way up till, as long as they lived on Bethel Hill. What kind of things would he do as far as deer hunting over on that property?
Well, like I said, we all put in food plots and stuff. He did most of the work.
Food plots.
Yeah,
Tell me what that is.
like winter beets, radishes. Want to say carrots one time maybe. But I
Okay.
know there's a lot of winter beets and radishes. Little small sections of land, and that's designed to like bring the deer in, you know. We set up a stand pretty close, which at that time I think was a tripod, I'm pretty sure. I think it was a
Okay.
tripod set up.
There were quite a few deer stands over there, right?
Oh, yeah.
You and him would put them together
Whenever I was around. I mean,
whenever you were around.
him and Jake did some whenever I wasn't there, but whenever I was around, yeah, we was always getting ready for it, doing it.
And
Whatever.
did George have kind of like certain rules as far as deer hunting goes? Would he shoot every deer he saw?
No,
Explain it.
you have to be a mature buck.
Had to be a mature buck.
Yep, or doe, you know, just mature doe. He wouldn't shoot anything young, you know. That way it gives it time to grow. The deer fully matures, help keeps the population in control and everything like that.
Sounds like he was almost kind of raising deer in a way.
In a way, yeah.
I mean, trying to, is
He's 3 times the hunter I ever was.
that right?
Yep, and I enjoy hunting, but he's 3 times the hunter I ever was.
Okay. And was Jake the same way?
No, he was lazy when it came to that.
Jake was lazy.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of times we'd go out of the morning, go hunting, Jake'd still be in bed. It'd just be me and him going out.
And George liked to be away from that house as much as possible. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
And George would go hang out in the woods as much as he could. Is that right?
yes,
And there was a lot of tension in that household. Would you agree with me on that?
yeah,
George would argue with his mother all the time. Isn't that right?
all the time.
She did not even want him around you. Is that fair to say?
Nope, she swore up and down I was a bad influence on him.
Right. And you ended up being basically his role model. Is that fair to say?
That's something you'd have to ask him.
Well, if I told you he said you were his role model, would you be surprised by it?
Objection to Mr. Parker saying what George would say.
I can rephrase it, George.
All right, I'll sustain the objection and rephrase.
Would it surprise you if George thought of you as a role
Your
model?
Honor, again, objection to what George Wagner thinks, and Mr. Parker putting that into evidence.
Well, I'm sustaining the objection of what somebody thought.
Let me ask you this, Chris. I don't know if you still are, but you were a smoker, right?
I still am, sadly.
Yeah, cigarettes, right?
Yeah,
All right. And do you know if George was a smoker?
every once in a while. Yeah,
Every-
I'd see him smoke 1 or 2 here and there.
All right. And would you describe George as kind of being shy when he was younger?
When he was younger,
Yes.
yes.
All right. And did that change over time?
Yeah, he got more confident.
He got more confident.
Yeah,
You tried to teach him the rules of the road, right?
just, yeah.
Well, he started smoking after you, is that right?
I started smoking when I was about 8 years old. But
Right.
I was just good at hiding it for a while.
Right. He started at a very young age, but he started, kind of modeled himself
Yeah.
so much. And you like to have a drink now and then, right?
Back then, I had to drink a lot more than now and then.
Okay, you've changed over the years,
Yeah.
but George was a drinker too.
Yeah.
You and him would drink together.
Yeah.
All right. Hunt together, smoke cigarettes,
Yeah.
talk about girls,
Yeah.
maybe chase a few.
A couple.
Okay. And was Jake like that?
Don't tell my wife that.
I don't tell her. Talking about Randall, I won't say a word. But Jake wasn't like that,
No.
was he? Tell us about Jake's bedroom over there at South Webster. Did he have a particular bedroom he stayed in?
Yeah, the biggest bedroom.
The biggest bedroom.
Yeah.
And was that like the other ones?
Nope.
What was different?
It's pink.
Pink.
I'm talking hot pink.
Did you find that unusual?
Yeah.
And did he have any like songs or anything he liked to sing or play or anything like that?
Well, he swore up and down it was Sophie's favorite song, but it was My Little Pony or something like that.
All right.
He played it going down the road one day.
All right. Tell me about that.
He played it, and I said, "What in the world are you doing?" He said, "It's Sophie's favorite song." I said, "Sophie ain't here."
So you were in a truck going somewhere?
Yeah.
All right. And what was Jake doing?
Singing My Little Pony.
And that's a little kid's song, right?
Yeah. My kids don't even like that song, and they're little kids.
All right. So you found that to be a little unusual.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Now, you said earlier that you've got a good job right now. You're laid off.
I'm laid off at the moment, yeah, for the
Yeah,
shutdown.
but you got this good job recently.
Yep, first public job I ever had.
Yeah, and you like to trade and sell things, is that right beforehand?
I still do that.
You still do that?
Yep, I still do that.
That kind of runs in your family, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Your mother does that?
Yeah, she used to.
She used to, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure she taught you the ropes a little bit.
Well, mostly my grandpa and my dad, from what I could watch from my dad anyway. He didn't really never teach me nothing, but I picked
Okay.
up a few things watching him here and there.
Right. And so tell me how that works. How can you make a living trading things?
Now, you buy something for a certain amount of money and flip it for a more amount of money.
All right.
And the key thing is trying to find somebody who wants that piece of merchandise or product that you're trying to sell.
Right. And so you go all over Southern Ohio trade days and other places.
Back when I was younger, I used to go everywhere.
What do you mean by everywhere?
Well, I rode rodeo for 3 years, 18, 19, 20, yeah, 3 years. So I was bouncing around through there, and I was
Okay.
bouncing around from stockyard to stockyard when I wasn't at a rodeo.
Okay. And so you learned how to get by trading things,
Mm-hmm.
how to make a living doing that.
Yep.
All right. And you would trade things such as ponies, horses.
Horses, goats, cattle, guns, cars. Like I said earlier, I'd buy a box of flies if I think it'd make $1.
All right. You know how to turn something and make a little money off it.
Yep.
So you would trade guns periodically, right?
Every now and then, yeah.
All right.
I'd take them in on trade, or I'd trade for some other stuff.
Right, and that's not unusual, is it?
I didn't think so. Not my lifestyle, it wasn't.
Right. A lot of people that you knew would have a gun, trade it for something else, right?
Yeah, like, not that long ago, I had an old high point pistol. I don't know
Okay.
if anybody knows anything about high points, but they're about the cheapest gun you can get, handgun-wise. $120, $130 brand new.
Right.
Well, I traded that gun for 3 junk cars.
For three
3 junk cars.
junk cars.
Been sitting around somebody's yard for Lord knows how long. I traded that gun for those 3 cars. Those 3 cars brought over 800, not counting the converter and stuff that was on them.
Okay. So that's an example of how you
Yes.
do your trading.
Exactly.
And you knew George to be a hunter, and he liked guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if he wanted a gun, he knew he could come to you and say, hey, Chris, if you happen to see this gun, I'd like to have one.
Yep.
And that was never a problem with you.
Nope. A lot of people do that.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he had guns for hunting. He had guns over at Bethel Hill, right?
Mhm.
He had guns at Peterson.
Yeah.
And it was no big deal.
Everybody I know has guns.
Let's talk about Billy.
Do we have to?
You know Billy, don't you?
Sadly.
Tell us about Billy.
Well, he's useless. There we go. In my opinion.
All right. Don't hold back on your words here. You're not going to get in trouble no matter what you say. I just want your honest answer.
I want to be respectful.
Understood.
Yeah.
And we want you to be respectful.
Yeah.
But tell us about Billy.
He's He's very special,
Okay,
and not in a good way.
right,
He's, he always acted like he could trade. I never could see it, because I don't see nobody liking him long enough to do any trading with him.
what do you mean by that?
He's a very hard person to like.
In what way?
He's mouthy as all get out.
All right,
He's arrogant, very pushy, and them teeth grinding. Oh, you can't be around him for more than 5 minutes.
why is that?
He grinds his teeth so loud, I guarantee it echo in this room.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, did you ever know him to hold down a job?
He had a few jobs here and there, but not hold one down that I can think of anyway.
Did he ever talk to you about,
That was whenever my sister could get him off the couch to go to work to do
what do you mean
something.
by that?
He didn't want to do nothing. He was lazy.
Lay on the couch all day?
Lay on the couch all day. That was his dream life.
Now, did he ever talk to you or in your presence about going to Mexico or any trips like that?
Yeah, I heard him over the phone a few times. He called about once or twice a week swearing up and down he had a way to make him and my dad rich.
He always was trying to get a get-rich scheme type guy?
Yeah, if he'd spent half that time trying to think of a way to legitimately make some money, he'd probably made a bunch.
All right, but he was one of these guys that always trying to find a way to get rich,
Oh, yeah.
the quick and easy way.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about Alaska for just a moment. You're aware that George and his family went up to Alaska many years before this murder, are you not?
Yeah.
All right, and did George ever talk to you about that?
Oh, yeah, for years and years.
What did he say?
Objection.
Faces.
I was gonna say, he can't put his own, he can't put his client's statement in. Client wants to get a statement in his way to do that.
Sustain the objection.
What was your understanding of their trip to Alaska, and they had many years before this murder?
That they enjoyed it and wanted to move up there, and said it was a beautiful country, which I'm sure that it is from some of the pictures I've seen.
Sure.
I ain't never been, but
And George was just a teenager back then, right?
yeah.
All right. And as a hunter, did he talk to you about the hunting up there?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of
said-
paradise?
Yeah. Elk, moose, bear. He said anything you can think of, they got it up there.
All right. And you're obviously aware that after these murders, they moved up there.
Yes.
Did that surprise you?
Not really. No.
When they were living up there, did you talk to George and maintain communication?
Yeah, just almost every day, I'd say it was.
And how would that work?
He'd just call me, and we'd sit there and talk and bull crap around for a little bit, and just about what I done that day, what he done, you know. Have we seen any big deer? Seen anything big at all, you know?
Right. Just normal conversation?
Yeah.
And
Or,
they're,
or he'd be calling me, and I'd tell him I'm glad that he called because my truck screwed up, and I need him to tell me
Okay.
how to fix it.
okay, you said he was a good mechanic.
He's a very good mechanic.
And
Best
you
I
and
ever
him
seen.
like to work on trucks together.
Well, it was mostly him. You know, I was the kind of guy, hey, I need a wrench. There you go.
He knew how to fix it.
Yeah, I'd learn a little bit here and there from him, but he's the one that fixed it. I was just there.
Okay. And if you needed something in the middle of the night, could you call George?
Absolutely,
He'd show up in the middle of the night.
absolutely.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. Well, you might ask, what in the world am I doing up there?
Right.
Yeah.
He might ask, what are you doing out this time
Yeah.
of night or whatever.
So what in the world you doing way up there? What are you doing out there?
Did you know George to stay away from the house on South Webster when he lived there? Did you know him to stay away in the middle of the night or get away from there as much as possible?
Yeah, we go riding around sometimes.
All right. Would he ever go off by himself?
Probably. I wasn't there all the time, you know.
You weren't there all the time?
No, I wasn't there all the time. I was always going myself.
Okay. George liked to go out and talk to girls, right?
Probably.
Yeah. And
If he went out
Angela-
by himself, I don't know.
Pardon me?
I said if he went out by himself, I don't know.
Right, if he went by himself, you don't know, but that wouldn't surprise you, right?
Yeah,
And Angela didn't like that, right?
probably not.
Right. Was Angela the type of person that would get in George's face about his conduct and tell him he was going to hell if he didn't change his ways?
Yep, I heard that several times.
All right. Explain that a little bit.
That's pretty much what you just said. I mean, if they get into an argument, she'd scream at him, swear up and down he's going to hell. Hell, she told me that several times.
Is that right? Under what circumstances?
Just the way I was living my life.
She didn't like it.
No, of course, back when I was younger, now I did drink quite a bit.
All right, and George did too, right?
Yeah, I drank quite a bit more than he did.
Okay.
I turned 21, I quit drinking, it wasn't fun anymore.
Right, right. But Angela would get in his face and scream and yell at him because she didn't like his lifestyle, is that right?
Yep.
Was Jake the same way?
I never seen her hardly yell at Jake.
All right. Do you think she favored Jake over George?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
From what I seen, Jake could do no wrong. Anytime they got into an argument or anything like that, she always took Jake's side over George's, no matter whether or not he was right or not.
All right. Angela always favored Jake.
Yes.
You were aware of some of the arsons up there on Bethel Hill, right?
What is that?
You were aware of some of the arsons, the burnings,
Oh, yeah.
of the homes.
I told you, I'm a little slow. You gotta
It's
keep
okay.
using that big fancy words with me.
Okay. You're aware that the house is burned up on Bethel Hill.
Yeah,
All right, and they collected insurance off that.
yeah,
And Angela always seemed to have a special item that survived all the fires.
yeah,
That's a little suspicious, right?
a little bit.
Now, after they moved back from Alaska and stayed over there at South Webster, Jake had gotten married, right?
Yeah, when he was up in Alaska, I didn't even know it till I think they moved back. I don't even think I knew whenever he was up there.
Right, so it kind of surprised you when he showed up with a wife,
Yeah.
and that was Beth.
Yeah.
Her name was Beth.
Yes. I can't remember her name, honestly.
Okay, do you remember, I mean, she lived in the house, right, there in South Webster?
Yeah.
What was she like?
Weird.
What?
Weird.
What do you mean by weird?
Okay, if she was standing back here in the corner right here, you know, and you just looking around the room, she can make eye contact with you. You know how most people, when you make eye contact with them, they kind of look away? No, she,
Okay,
like, make eye contact a little too long, and you're like, see what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
it's odd the way she acted.
all right. And did she seem like a good match with Jake?
Robert, I'm gonna object to this. Are we asking for his opinion now?
Ask him for his observations.
If it was a good match for Jake?
Did they appear to be a good match?
Robert, again.
Well, I'll overrule the objection.
Did Jake and Beth appear to be a good match?
I can answer that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back to Billy for a moment, how was he around George and Jake when you, as the boys were growing up, as Jake and you and George were all growing up, how was Billy in relation to George and Jake?
When they was younger, from what I seen, Billy was abusive.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Boys would always have bruises on them. They had to come from somewhere. And when they was older, it was more vocal abuse, I guess you could say it,
Okay,
because old George over there could whoop his dad by then.
what do you mean by that?
Well, he could easily whoop on Billy. Billy wasn't nothing but he was all bark, no bite.
Gotcha. And what about, did you ever see George and Billy get in a fist fight?
I've seen a few, give or take.
They have disagreements, right?
Yeah,
George would stand up for himself.
absolutely.
I mean, George would stand up to his mom if he didn't like what she was doing.
George would stand up to Billy for Jake too. I mean, he would.
Right. He would, I think you said he would protect Jake, right?
Yep.
Sometimes Jake needed protection,
Yep.
and George would do it.
Mhm.
All right. And George would stand up to his mom. If she said something to him or they had disagreements, George would stand up to her, wouldn't he?
Yes. Yeah, they argued quite a bit.
That house had a lot of yelling and screaming. Is that fair to say?
Probably. Not so much whenever I was there. A few times when I was there, it got pretty good.
Did you ever know, when they lived over on Bethel Hill, did you ever know Billy to be a thief?
Yeah?
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he told me what he was doing. He said he was stealing fuel, stealing semi-trailers, stealing pretty much whatever he could get his hands on.
All right. You know him to be a shoplifter?
Now that I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Did you ever know about a trailer full of Rocky boots?
That I can think of? No.
Yeah.
That I can think of. But my memory ain't too keen.
That's fine. If you remember, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. When Jake was younger, did he, was he kind of like a computer guy or
Yeah,
a gamer guy type thing?
yeah.
Can you explain that?
He liked his video games a lot more than the rest of us did.
All right. And that wasn't the way George was.
No. I mean, we played every now and then, you know, but if it was daylight, we'd like to be outside doing something else.
And what about Jake?
Give him time, he'd play games all day.
Did he ever have like a collection of action figures or anything like that? Did you ever know anything about that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
He had a bunch of little action figures.
Okay. What would he do with them? Or
Set them up. Just, he wouldn't touch them, he wouldn't play with them, he'd just sit.
I'm gonna check, because I fail to see the relevance of Jake playing with action figures to this case.
Well, I'm gonna allow that question, because it may deal with family dynamics, which was asked about in direct, so.
You could go ahead and answer.
He just had a little shelf, had a bunch of them, about yay big or so, just stacked up on it.
And would you describe Jake as being OCD?
Oh, yeah,
Explain that.
very neat.
Very neat.
Everything had a place in there, and how they put it, everything's got a place and there's a place for everything.
All right.
Yeah,
And was George like that?
no. He was neat with his tools and stuff, but
Right.
nowhere near as neat as Jake was.
Right.
I could
He-
move a hammer at Jake's 3/4 of an inch, I swear he'd know it.
All right. And then I think you said earlier that George liked to take the four-wheeler and go right through the mud.
Oh, yeah,
Jake would go around.
yep.
You talked about Angela being a little bit controlling, is that right?
She was a lot controlling, in my
A
opinion.
lot controlling.
Yeah.
Was Jake similar to her that way?
Jake didn't really rebel against her on anything that I ever seen anyway.
Right. But
There was
George-
never much argument between him and her that I personally have seen.
No argument between Jake and his mom.
Yes. Like I said, she said something, he just did it.
Talking about Jake.
Yes.
All right. Did you ever know, do you know whether George had plans to move away from his family?
He talked about it several times.
Did Jake think he was better than other people? Would you
Your
say?
Honor, truly.
I'll sustain the objection.
How would you describe Jake's attitude?
Arrogant,
How about Angela?
even worse.
Did Angela ever accuse you of stealing money from her back around 2004, quite a few years ago?
Not to my face, no, but I did hear later on that she did.
Did she always blame George for things that Jake did?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know
Did
if I
she
should
make
say
up
that.
lies about George to cover for Jake?
Your Honor, we are gonna need to lay a foundation for this, always, and she made up lies, how would, yeah.
Did you ever know of Angela to make up a lie to cover for Jake against George?
That I don't know. I know she made up several lies about me.
Okay.
One of them being stealing money from him, because I ain't never took a dime from him. That's also come from the same woman who said I'd never amount to nothing and spend the rest of my life in prison.
And guess what? She's the one going to prison.
That's
right?
funny, ain't it?
I'll show you it's been marked, State's Exhibit 21. I'm sorry, Wagner.
Yeah, thank you. Approach on this.
Yeah. I don't need to ask this witness a question about that. So I'll withdraw that question. Now, when they moved over to Peterson Road, the Wagner family, you spent some time over there, correct?
Yeah.
All right, showing you Wagner Exhibit 22. Do you recognize this from over? You recognize this?
Yeah, it's a barn.
That's a barn. Have you ever been at that barn?
Yeah, I helped them build a little bit of it.
Great. You and George, and probably Jake, built that barn over on Peterson Road, right?
Yep.
Can you tell me about when that was that you did that?
Not really.
Okay.
A long time ago.
They just lived there for a few years, right?
Yeah.
And so what did you actually do?
I helped them put up them trusses, and I helped put a few of them panels on,
All right.
board panels, and I think I helped hang them doors on the back end of it, I'm pretty sure.
All right. Was this barn put up in a week or two, or how long did it take to?
Oh, no, it took a while.
How long would you say a while? Is it a few months, a few weeks?
Yeah, probably a few months, give or take, because we didn't just stay on it constantly, and I was only there a couple times to help them
All right.
with it.
Showing you a Wagner Exhibit 23. You ever seen this truck before?
No.
Now, George and Jake and Billy, they all drove trucks, right?
Yeah,
What kind of truck did George like to drive, if you know?
Cummins.
Cummins.
Yep, second gen most of the time.
All right. What's a Cummins for those of us that don't know?
This diesel engine.
All right. Particular kind of diesel.
Yeah.
All right. Did you know George to have a Cummins tattoo?
Yeah.
A lot of young guys in this area would have a Cummins tattoo, is that right?
Yep.
Wait just a moment, Judge.
Slow down.
A few more questions, Chris. I'm almost done.
Oh, take your time.
All right. PCI interviewed you a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
All right. And they showed you a picture of a hand holding a Colt 1911. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Had you ever seen that gun before?
No.
Now, we talked earlier about George's relationship with his father, Billy. You saw them in a fist fight before?
I've seen him in a few altercations.
Explain those if you can.
A lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. Few swings here and there.
All right. Did you ever get into an altercation with Billy?
I wouldn't call it an altercation
What
per
would you
se.
call it?
He kept calling me, he kept calling me gay. And I can take a joke, you know what I mean? Hell, my friends joke with me all the time. This went on for about a week. And I told him, I said, Billy, you call me gay. Which ain't what he said. He called me another word. But I said, you call me gay one more time. I said, I'm going to roll your big hind end right down here on the ground. And he came over to me, which I'm only about eye level with his nipple anyway, because he's a big old brute.
Mm-hmm.
He came over to me, put his arm on, he leaned down there and he got my ear. He said, you're gay. I reached up, I grabbed him, I flip-flopped him back on the ground. I put him in a chokehold because that's about the only thing I could do with that big old brute. And my sister started screaming at me, telling me to let him go because he's turning blue.
That was April.
Yeah.
And that was that at Bethel Hill?
Yep.
And that's the kind of guy Billy was, right?
Yep. Just a needler. I guess you could call it.
Right.
I mean, after a while, hearing the same thing, you kind of get
Get tired of it. don't
Yeah.
you?
At least come up with some new material.
Right. Can I have just a moment? Did Jake dress differently than George? Do you know?
Yeah,
Can you explain that?
he wore a lot of Pokemon stuff.
All right. And Jake liked The Walking Dead quite a bit, didn't he?
Yeah,
Play the video game, if you don't.
I don't know if he did or not.
All right. Wagner Exhibit 24. Do you recognize this, Chris?
Yeah, it was a profile picture.
That's the picture you talked about earlier on direct examination, right?
Yeah,
That's the wolf picture?
yeah.
Thank you, Chris. I don't have any other questions here.
Am I done?
Does the state wish to redirect?
Yes. Mr. Newcomb, you are also a Walking Dead fan, is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was in the earlier seasons. These newer stuff are here ain't worth nothing.
Don't like the newer
No.
seasons, but you also were a Walking Dead fan, just like Jake was, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was at least one thing you had in common with Jake.
Yeah,
Okay. And you indicated that at some point, George got big enough that he could whoop Billy's.
yeah. I got you.
And you were talking about the differences between Jake and George. Were they different builds, too?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
Jake more slight than George?
Jake was scrawny.
Okay. And George was pretty strong, too, right?
As an ox, yeah.
Okay. And tell me about that. Like, had you witnessed him with engines and stuff?
Oh, yeah, I could watch him pick up a 350 engine just
Okay.
like it's nothing.
Ever see him drag deer?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's like a little mule going through here.
And were you aware that Billy had broke his back? Did you ever become aware of that?
No, I don't believe it was.
Okay. Talking about the weapons, you buy, sell, and trade, I believe you said, not just Jake and George asked you to do that, but a lot of people ask you
Yeah.
to do that. That's your business, right? Is
Yeah.
to buy, sell, trade, and people, if they're interested in something,
If they're needing something or looking for something, I'll do my best to find it because I know I can make $1 there.
okay. All right. Did you ever know George to have an SKS?
Yeah,
Okay. More than one?
several.
Okay. And do you recall if he ever got any of them off of you?
It was either he got one off me or I got one off him. It was one of them two. There was an exchange here someplace, but I can't remember
Okay.
how exactly it went.
All right. And you indicated that kind of where you got into this buying, selling, trading is because your father did that sort of stuff too, right?
My dad, my granddad, yeah.
It's kind of a lifelong generational thing. Okay. And your mother also is a notary, correct?
Yes.
So she can notarize titles and stuff. And is that helpful too sometimes in your
Oh, yeah.
buying, selling, trading, that she can kind of notarize that when you're doing title transfers and stuff? Okay.
Yep.
And you indicated that George would push back against Angela. Obviously, Angela, you testified, thought you were a bad influence on
Yeah.
George. Okay. And we heard that you smoked and drank and George smoked and drank, perhaps as a result of that?
It could be. I might have been a bad influence on some parts, yeah.
Okay. And were those some of the things that Angela was critical of, the fact that George drank and smoked and stuff? Is that things that she
I
did
don't
not?
know if she knew about it or not, but,
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure she knew about him drinking, you know?
Mhm.
But I don't know if she knew about anything else.
Okay. And you indicated that Jake would basically fall into line pretty quickly with Angela, correct?
Yes.
But George might push back a little more.
He would. He'd push back
Okay. In the end, would he still do what his mother told him to do?
most of the time, yeah.
Okay. So he'd argue, but in the end, he would do what she said.
Yeah.
Okay. And you indicated that your belief was that the Wagners always kind of thought they might end up going back to Alaska because they liked it the first time they were there.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, the first time they went to Alaska, was that as a family? All
Yes.
four of them?
Yes.
Okay. And when they went back to Alaska, again, it was all four of them as a family, correct?
All four of them plus the kids, you know.
Plus the two kids, right? Okay. And you indicated you helped with that barn. Just so we're clear, were you out there at Peterson Road around the time of the homicides, either the week of the homicides or the week after the homicides?
I don't believe I was, because I'm pretty sure I was up in Chillicothe.
Okay. That's when Randa was expecting your first child,
Yeah.
correct? And I believe you testified you stayed
We was up there with her mom and dad.
with her
'Cause,
parents.
yeah. It was her first kid. She was nervous and scared, you know, just as much as, well, if not more than I was. Because at least she knew something, you know, she's raised to help raise her cousins and stuff like that. I had no experience with a baby at all. They scared me because I was always afraid I was gonna break them. But yeah, she wanted that help from her mom and stuff like that while we was up there.
Okay. And in fact, there was a quarrel about you guys not coming to a 4th of July party after your son was born on, I think you said July 1st?
Yep.
And what was that quarrel?
Angela wrote on Facebook right there, or commented or something like that on a post of Randa's, and said that she was being a horrible mom, keeping that baby, meaning Colton, away from his family. And we had just got back from the hospital, like it was that day we got back from the hospital. And Randa was still, you know, woozy and everything else that comes along with right after pregnancy. And she didn't feel like going anywhere, and I told her, I said, well, we ain't going nowhere. I said, well, you know. I ended up swinging by for a little bit because I had to be down that way anyway to grab some clothes and stuff like that, so I ended up swinging by the cookout, but her and the baby stayed up there. And Randa said, if you want to come see the kid, or come see the baby, you come see the baby. But she ain't going nowhere until she gets healed up and feels like going someplace.
Okay.
It was probably a little bit more heated than that, but she can probably explain it better than I can.
Okay. And during George's adult life, have you ever known him not to live with his mother and his brother?
No.
You were asked about phone calls with Angela and Jake after they had both pled guilty. They didn't both plead guilty on the same day, did they?
I don't know.
Okay.
If they did or not, I didn't really catch that part.
Okay.
I learned about Jake's within 10 minutes before he called me. that's whenever I found out what Jake did, and he calls immediately, like 10 minutes later.
Okay. And he was the first one to plead, correct? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think either my sister called right after he called me, or she called me, and then he called me on the first conversation. It was one of them two.
Okay. And safe to say you were upset when you talked to both of them, correct?
That's a polite way to put it, yeah.
Okay. And you were pretty emotional during those calls, correct?
Yep.
Maybe even crying?
I don't recall that. I remember being extremely mad, but I could have been crying.
Okay, okay. And did you also have a phone conversation with George after that time?
Yeah, but it was a while after that, though.
Okay. Were you upset when you were talking with him that first time as well?
Yes. I wasn't as upset because I had time to calm
Hadn't
myself
just
down.
gotten
You
the
know what I mean?
news.
But,
Yep,
but yeah, I was still pretty pissed. Sorry, Judge.
okay. And you've been asked about your observations and opinions on the dynamics of this family. Given your observations of the closeness of this family, did you have an opinion as to whether or not this crime could have been committed without all of them being involved?
Sustained.
Your testimony regarding the closeness of this family, would you tell us about that?
Pretty tight-knit.
Okay. Did they pretty much know each other's business?
Yes.
Overruled.
And when you said earlier that you felt betrayed, did you also feel betrayed by George?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
For the cross.
Any questions?
Chris, as you said here today, do you still love George? Like a brother?
Yes.
Do you feel the same way about Jake
No.
or Angela?
No.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Anything further from the state?
You were just asked if you still love George, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you also feel betrayed by him?
Yes, I do. Do I think we'd ever be as close as we was? Probably not. But he's the only one I remotely miss out of all of them.
And you were closest to him before all this?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Anything further?
Chris, I have a hard time hearing. Did you say you miss George?
Said he's the only one I do miss out of all of them.
You'd welcome him back in your home, wouldn't you?
Your Honor.
That'd be
I'm
getting a
gonna-
little close.
Thank you, Chris. No further questions.
Are you objecting to that question? Are you objecting to that?
Can you read that back for us? I want to hear his answer. The question was, would you still let him in the house, or would you let him in your home?
Welcome back in your home, wouldn't you? This can happen, Your Honor. Witness, that would be a little close.
Okay.
That part of the thing.
Do I need, do I need to clarify that?
All right. Anything further from this witness by the state?
No, Your Honor.
Is the defense through with this witness?
Yes, thank you.
All right, you may step down.
Where do I go?
The one you subpoenaed, you could tell you where to go.
Just go outside and walk, yeah.
All right.